He's smarter than I thought.
Are you telling me there's a Shadow the Tasmanian tiger? Welcome to Aussie August, where I, an American, review 3 of the most Australian games I can find to experience that great southern land from afar. First, I covered Straya, a great survival adventure where you get attacked by a lot of Australian wildlife. Then, The Adventures of Down Under Dan, the 90s point-and-click following a charming bush bogan trying to make his fortune. Let's see if our title for today, an Australian classic, can offer us a different perspective on the land down under. My name is Harvey Bodega, and welcome to Ty the Tasmanian Tiger. After my review of Ty, I'll break down what I've learned about Australia from these 3 games. There are some strange consistencies, but first let's cover Ty, which should be an excellent source as it's the first major release from the longest continually running Australian developer, Krome Studios. Krome is the brainchild of 3 dudes, blokes if you will, creative director Steve Stamatiadis, development director John Passfield, and Robert Walsh, a finance guy who previously worked at a surfing magazine publisher. The 3 launched Krome in 1999, initially releasing such exciting titles as Mike Stewart's Pro Bodyboarding, Championship Surfer, and Barbie Beach Vacation. Did Robert Walsh just bring surfing influence? I don't know. They decided their next title should try to take the world by storm and catapult Krome into the AAA gaming space. At the very same time, a specific genre was blowing up in popularity, the 3D action platformer, almost always with an animal mascot. Sure, we have Mario, but by 2002 we have Donkey Kong 64, 4 Crash Bandicoot games, 3 Spyro, 2 Gex, 2 Banjo-Kazooie, Ape Escape, Jak and Daxter, 2 Sonic, Conker's Bad Fur Day, and those are just the ones off the top of my head. While the market was continuing to flood with increasingly defined genre conventions, Krome took on these big competitors with something quintessentially Australian. Released in 2002 for GameCube, Xbox, and PlayStation 2, Ty the Tasmanian Tiger reviewed just okay, critics tending to agree that it was a pretty good clone of another game, but varied on which. Crash Bandicoot, Mario 64, Sonic? That said, Ty sold over 1 million copies, was re-released for PlayStation 2's Greatest Hits line, and has 4 subsequent entries in the franchise. Ty is considered to be a classic to many, made clear by Krome's easily successful crowdfunding campaign to remaster this first entry. Released in 2016, available for the first time on PC, we'll be playing this remastered version. I won't be doing a compare-contrast to the original as I've never played it, and the remaster is vastly considered to be a faithful adaptation.
Don't be afraid, Ty. I am Nandu Gilly, the Bunyip Elder.
G'day, mate!
It's time you knew the truth. Years ago, a great battle was fought over the fate of 5 mystic talismans.
My dinosaur ancestors were here first, you stinking, furry mammal opportunists.
Those brave few who challenged Boss Cass were trapped in the dreaming.
Mom? Dad?
Word grows that Boss Cass is seeking out the talismans again. He must be stopped at all costs. It's up to you to find the talismans before he does.
It's up to me to save my family!
So Tasmanian tigers have been sucked into an alternative realm called the Dreaming, but our buddy Ty, guided by the Bunyip Elder, is going to collect 5 mystic talismans before all mammals are made extinct by Boss Cass. I'm telling you, a cassowary makes perfect sense as a bad guy. Those things are terrifying. We have our main conflict, the stage is set. Let's break down the presentation. I really like most of the characters. They have that perfect concoction for a child-friendly game, being kind of bubbly and highly characterized, but are all Australian wildlife. Maurice the cockatoo, Julius the koala, Ranger Ken the Tassie devil, Rex and Elle the platypuses. Boss Cass has a very flexible beak that feels wrong to me, but I like how the friendly characters are not over-designed. That is, except for 2. Shaza the dingo.
Thanks, Possum.
Look, it's theorized that competition for prey between the thylacine and dingo is what led to the extinction of the Tassie tiger from the Australian mainland. Do you really think this is appropriate, Ty? Well, the last character I think is over-designed is Ty himself. I mean, I see off-brand Sonic. The gloves, the big feet, the weird side-mouth perspective, the eyes shaped like a windshield, and the crazy anime hair. Not a huge fan of the attempt at badassery, especially since it doesn't match Ty's character. He is just the nicest guy. Uplifting, enthusiastic, and agreeable, he probably wouldn't even hold it against Shaza for mainland extinction.
You beauty. Gee, thanks, mate. No worries, Sheila. I'll find them for you. Leave it to me, Maury. Hey, relax, mate. I'm tight. Ripper!
I like the character, not a huge fan of the design. As for enemies, I was a little perturbed by the kangaroos. It seems like they have the wrong head. Their snout's not quite long enough, their ears too small. Doesn't read kangaroo to me, but other than those, I like the enemy design across the board. The frills, shield lizards, ninja geckos, crocodiles. My favorites are probably the skinks and cricket garb, along with an intimidating set of enemies like eels, sharks, a blue ring octopus, and others. I can't fault the design, but I am not a fan of the invertebrates, I guess. The spiders were fine, but the leeches, roaches, and especially the goddamn ticks. Disgusting. I'm not particularly squeamish, but I had to learn that Australia has giant cave roaches. It's upsetting. I suppose that's more of a credit to the design rather than a detraction though. The environments carry high quality too, and I was amazed by the amount of detail. Let's start at Rainbow Cliffs, the mushroom kingdom of Tai, the home base, which has frogs, insects, wallabies jumping around, birds looking for fish. The world seems alive. Most levels carry the same immersive quality, mainly rainforest, desert, water, and snow levels, each with their own little details. The whole game has a rather bright color palette, understandable layouts, usually underwhelming skyboxes, and a variety of charming animations, something they really excel at. From Tai shaking himself off after getting wet, wagging his tail getting items, spinning his boomerangs, to the enemy frills squaring up in boxing stances, armored lizards straightening their helmets or shaking their tail at you. There are even reflections on the surface of the water, lens flares from the sun, and it's clear they put so much effort into the animations that enemies will politely wait for them to finish before attacking you, even this naval mine. Not everything's perfect though, as the Flamerang or Frosterang has a color filter I didn't care for. Tai kicks his legs out to the side when he jumps and it looks silly. The ghost bat bite animation is... I don't like that. But the main note I'll make is the cutscenes are at a notably lower quality than in-game assets. This has to be a side effect of being a remaster, but they do feel muddled. So the visual presentation includes colorful environments and characters with great attention to detail, albeit a few unrefined aspects. Audio carries about the same level of overall quality, like the effects are very solid across the board. And the way the environmental sounds are layered further makes the world feel alive. Music raises the bar higher as the main theme is excellent, and many levels feel distinctly Australian with upbeat acoustics and didgeridoos. Some were certainly more generic, but they're all well composed and added quite a bit. Where I want to focus more, however, is the voice acting. I'd say the actor for Tai is doing the best he can because he just needs to be the most positive and friendly guy he can be.
You beauty!
But the acting overall is fantastic and professionally done. I have 4 actors I want to highlight, 2 American, 2 Australian, the first being Neddy, a character just in one level, but I really enjoyed his dumb, cartoon bully voice.
Ho, ho, ho! Trespasser am orange rat, puny rat, no match for Neddy.
Just to point out, his name is Neddy and he wears armor, and he's voiced by American David Lodge, best known for his roles in Power Rangers, Bleach, Naruto, over 156 voices in World of Warcraft, and Tenderheart Bear in the 2010 Care Bears.
I've heard that if Bedtime Bear gets woken up, he can be grumpier than grumpy.
Lenny the Lyrebird reminds me of a less gravelly Gilbert Gottfried, voiced by American Terry McGovern.
We have got some trouble in this dusty old desert.
Don't you mean rainforest?
Rainforest, that's right, sure.
Wikipedia says he's best known for Launchpad McQuack from the DuckTales Darkwing Duck universe, but he was a consistent voice actor for now defunct Telltale games, and most importantly to me, provides a variety of voices for Lego Island.
Oh, hi, I didn't see you come in. Where are my manners? I'm Bill Ding.
Lego Island 1997 is a fantastic game I simply have to learn how to emulate so I can cover it for the channel. As for the 2 Australian actors I want to highlight, the first is Ranger Ken, voiced by Ken Campbell.
G'day, Cobber.
Those rotten thrills are lighting fires all over the place. It's irresponsible, that's what it is.
Back when I slept and used those 10 sticks, I left my campfire burning. While this may seem like an incredibly irresponsible move,
It's irresponsible, that's what it is.
I'm not sure if they named the character after the actor, as Campbell is the least well-known actor on this list, appearing in bit parts in movies and Australian television, and commercials like for Repco and Home Hardware. He was my second favorite voice and deserves accolades, seeing as he isn't stacked with credits. Lastly, my favorite, who is just overall fantastic, is Maurice the Cockatoo, Ty's guide and tutorial dispenser, played by the well-known Australian actor Terry Gill.
So, you old coot, what's this contraption do? Listen, mate, I solved your problem. I found you a second boomerang. That's great. Where is it? See that tree over there? Yeah? Well, it's not there.
He was in Crocodile Dundee, for God's sake. He played Detective Inspector Jack Grace in the Australian soap opera Prisoner, Superintendent Clive Adamson in Australian cop drama Blue Heelers, and ran Melbourne's Tivoli Theatre with his wife. He is now deceased, having passed after a battle with lung cancer in 2015, so I want to toast to Terry Gill's great career and legacy, as he absolutely nailed his role as Maurice, appearing in the next 2 sequels as well. So while the music and effects are proficient with a few unrefined notes here and there, the voice acting is excellent and one of the best parts of the game. While presenting well is very important, what makes or breaks 3D platformers are the gameplay mechanics. Let's start with movement. As with any platformer, if the systems are imprecise or unintuitive, it'll be incredibly frustrating. I've said it before, I stink at platformers. So if detection is misleading, characters slide a little bit after landing a jump, or most commonly, the camera control is deranged, then I may be reduced to a state psychologists define as primitive. Thankfully, Ty the Tasmanian Tiger's systems are well crafted and fairly intuitive. As movement goes, you have a single jump, a physical law-breaking boomerang glide, and the ability to chain bites together if targets are in close proximity. There isn't a Mario 64 amount of jumping or movement options. The platforming challenges here are much simpler. The camera is not perfect, as 3D platformer cameras never are, having a few annoyances where control is taken away from you for specific environments, like spiraled inclines, direct climbs, or specific boss battles. We'll explore boss battles in the spoiler section, but worth mentioning here. It can occasionally be too close or clip through environments, but the annoyances are very minimal, thankfully. Ty starts off swimming like my greyhound. He's terrible at it, but then turns into friggin' Katie Ledecky after a short explanation from Rex, making swimming the most efficient way to get around. How about combat? Ty does not punch or kick or jump on enemies to defeat them. He's a true Aussie bloke. He uses culturally fitting combat methods, boomerangs, and biting. Biting is pretty simple. It's a short, powerful attack where Ty lunges forward, opening his mouth incredibly wide and gnashing his teeth together savagely. It's a bit ridiculous looking maybe, but entirely accurate to the real thylacine, and can be powered up, used in the air for an aerial attack, and can be chained together. Boomerangs offer more variety, as there are different sets with different strengths and weaknesses. You start with normal boomerangs, but progress to get quite a few more, with benefits like elemental damage, a zoomable scope, and several others. My favorite is the multi-ring, as it functions as an unlimited amount of boomerangs you can just keep throwing. Sure, it's powerful, but I liked it better as it fulfilled my need to fidget. If you die, however, Ty has one of the best checkpoint systems I've ever seen. Not just because it's really well placed or efficient, but because they're literally Australian dunny outhouses. If you die, Ty pops out of the most recent dunny like he just took a shit. It's fantastic. Now, while most enemies are sent to the great beyond by a boomerang, expunging their souls, some are resistant, like the cricket skinks, while other enemies, like the normal frills, are resistant to biting, and others still have environmental weaknesses. You gotta cater how you kill them to different types of enemies. It's not a deep combat system in any way, but the movement, boomerang varieties, and assortment of enemies make combat engaging enough. My biggest frustration is the boomerang targeting is really irregular, auto-targeting sometimes, while other times refusing to hit an enemy right in front of you. The weirdness was most frustrating during set pieces, as outside of 1 or 2 bosses, a few set pieces in the final stage, the combat and platforming lacks any significant challenge. Where Ty puts most of its emphasis, gameplay variety, and replayability is in the collectathon aspect. Like Mario 64, in order to proceed you have to collect, not stars, but Thunder Eggs. I didn't know what a Thunder Egg was. They're rare, valuable geodes that Ty's friend, Julius, uses to summon the missing talismans tied to the advancement of the plot. Sure, collecting your next quota of Thunder Eggs is a collectathon mechanic, but there are so many more built in. Every level has 300 opals exactly, collecting all providing a Thunder Egg. Each level has 5 incarcerated quote-unquote Bilby mates, finding all providing a Thunder Egg. Each stage has golden cogs used to purchase boomerangs, rainbow scales in the starter area, picnic baskets with healing items or power-ups, and over 200 invisible blocks that provide a piece of concept art or drawing in the gallery menu. To be direct, I am not a fan of collectathon systems most of the time, despite quite a few games I've covered, some of which I really like, having lesser degrees of similar mechanics. As much as it's not my favorite, I feel 3D platformers of this era were a bit of a golden age of collectathons. Traversing various stages with primary objectives has you stumble across secondary things to collect, resulting in more consistently engaging gameplay. While integrated far less seamlessly than the gold standard of Mario 64, there's some satisfaction here. The last mechanic to highlight is the variety of side quests to do for Thunder Eggs, where I think most of the character and world is built. Every level has a time trial run to beat another character a specific time traversing an entire stage, and those are fine, I guess, but the others are a lot more engaging. Finding sunken treasure for Rex and Elle, beat up the neighborhood bully, help a guy get home at night by lighting trash can fires on his path, wrangle escaping emus. They're all very charming and goofy. It doesn't matter if Ranger Ken is asking us to wade through the shit at the bottom of a bat's cave to get them to leave. Ty is always like,
"Aw, you beauty!
Shoot arsonists with a turret?
Bonza!
Face ravenous crocodiles and giant cockroaches to turn your hot water back on?
Grouse ass!"
I'm telling you, Ty is so nice. There was one quest that actually gave me pause though. On the Treasure Hunt Archipelago level, a seahorse character gives you the following task.
Those frills drive me nuts. They have been tearing around the neighbourhood for the last week, causing all sorts of strife. If you can make them stop, I've got a present for you.
Okay, it's a deal.
I legitimately thought about this. The frilled lizards on these jet skis aren't hostile to me. Am I really going to murder them so this uptight jerk who can just go somewhere else can have some quiet? I mean, the frills are just normal dudes listening to their bird overlord. Is that what I'm doing? Is Ty actually the good guy? As I'm considering the morality behind these actions, I do notice the frills randomly dropping explosives, so you can't have that. Ty does have a few performance hiccups, some choppiness or lag when moving the camera too quickly, with a very rare stutter or two, obvious pop-in underwater, occasional clipping. The achievement triggers for Steam, one stage giving you a lasso rang while riding a big boar and it basically could not be aimed properly. Despite a few unrefined aspects, Ty the Tasmanian Tiger has fun, lighthearted systems that are whimsical and engaging, but lack challenge throughout a vast majority of the experience. Whimsical would probably be the best word to describe the story as well, as despite Boss Cass having plans to cause all warm-blooded mammals to become extinct, the plot never feels like the threat level is that high. As we briefly covered, Ty is setting off to collect the mystic talismans to prevent Boss Cass from using them to destroy all mammals. He does so by collecting Thunder Eggs to power his friend Julius's talisman summoning machine, facing a boss battle after retrieving each one. Now the story is not a complex one. You're given a task, and you do it. Congratulations. But I'll put the specific cutscenes and boss battles behind the spoiler warning. I encourage those interested in the experience to jump past it for just my finishing thoughts. Alright, you ready? Well, despite having 5 talismans, you're able to fight Boss Cass after collecting 3. Starting chronologically, summoning the first talisman opens a portal Ty accidentally jumps through to the boss stage of Bull the Razorback, a big punk-tattooed pig in an open corral with rocks that look like termite mounds. You get him to run into the rocks, it's a pretty straightforward fight, but I like his mom tattoo. So beat him to get your first talisman, and around here is where you're treated to a cutscene of Boss Cass finding out we're trying to stop him, and he sends his goons to kill us. A shadowy figure appears with a similar silhouette to Ty, holding boomerangs, chatting villainously with Boss Cass. And I'll ask again, is this shadow the Tasmanian Tiger? We'll find out, as your second boss comes after collecting enough Thunder Eggs to summon the next talisman, where Ty again tries to grab it, but ends up summoned to a cove with a bunch of floating platforms. I didn't know what was going on, and I really think a cutscene or an introduction that was supposed to play just didn't, as there's a mechanical shark underwater, and you have to blow him up with air tanks, Jaws style. Now, I like the design. It's a suitably intimidating mechanical shark, something Ty the Tasmanian Tiger and James and the Giant Peach have in common, but mechanically the fight is not so impressive. Ty can simply outrun the shark underwater, and it's very finicky to get the air tanks to explode. It's not great, but a cool idea and design. Okay, you beat him. Another cutscene with some entertaining dialogue.
Now get out of my sight! Imbecile.
But our evil Tasmanian tiger guy vows to stop Ty, as the henchman couldn't do it. You run into him in one of the new levels that are opened up, easily defeating him, and he slinks off. I am bummed they nerfed the multi-rang for this fight, making it the only boomerang that doesn't damage him, but I suppose that's fair. Well, collect enough Thunder Eggs from this set of levels to summon the next talisman, accidentally being pulled into that portal, this time fighting a gigantic Yeti. Welcome to Fluffy's Fjord, and it's the most visually impressive boss. While being confused as to what you're meant to do, it turns out this Yeti isn't Fluffy, but a robot piloted by a thorny devil lizard named Fluffy, and has 3 different stages. The first is the most confusing. You gotta use flame spurts to shoot fireballs at specific areas on the Yeti's hands, feet, and chest, but the chest is so high and has a specific hitbox that I was just baffled as to what I was meant to do. In the entire game, I'd say the camera in this fight is the worst, forcing your view upward and making navigation and precise movements confusing. But it's okay. Beating Fluffy,
I have to say, I am impressed. You know, if things were different, we could have been a team.
Okay, what's with so many people hitting on Ty?
Follow me, if you know what I mean.
Thanks, Possum.
Like, I imagine Ty is an enthusiastic 14-year-old. He's 20? Weird. Anyway, getting our next talisman shows a cutscene of Boss Cass chewing out the evil Tasmanian tiger, and here I was thinking that Ty and this character, named Sly, were the same person. I know. Let me explain. Not only do they look near identical and both use boomerangs, but Ty is almost comically nice.
What's the matter, Maury?
Sorry, mate. I've just got something in my eye, that's all.
She'll be right, mate. She'll be right.
And Sly, stupidly evil.
After all, who knows Tasmanian tigers better than me?
He's helping Boss Cass extinct his entire class from animal taxonomy, so it made sense to me that the Bunyip Elder had split these two into their good and bad sides, like the Calvin and Hobbes Ethicator series. Ty, being the good side, would be able to overcome his own evil to save the world. Pretty interesting idea, huh? Well, that was entirely a headcanon, as the Sly storyline is pretty bad. We head towards Boss Cass's lair, and Maurice warns us that no one ever comes back from there. It's weird we only have 3 talismans of the 5, but early in the final level, we run into Shaza, who just has one. What is she doing here? Well, she's captured by a ghost bat named Shadow, a difficult fight where she buffets you with small bats, flies around, and it's easy to fall into lava and hurt yourself. Decent fight, actually fairly difficult, and defeating her earns you the 4th talisman and rescues Shaza. Afterward, you run into Sly again, who you defeat in a cutscene and save from falling into lava, something you've likely done about a dozen times in this stage already if you're anything like me, but it apparently would have been fatal to him. He's all angsty and says Ty will regret saving him, but he goes away, and a cutscene plays to demonstrate the final battle.
At last, we come face to face. So you're the troublemaker I keep hearing about? Well, this is the end of the line for you, you meddling rat.
Boss Cass is in a gigantic iron doomsday robot, and Ty has to break into the robot and defeat him. The initial stage was baffling to me as to what to do. I was wandering around, getting killed a bunch of times, trying a whole ton of different stuff, but what you gotta do is use the Frosterang on the flame turrets and then bite them to destroy them. Once you've destroyed all of them, a path inside of the robot will open, allowing you to go inside and destroy a whole bunch of machinery tubes. I loved this part. There are so many enemies, I was multi-ringing everybody. It's intense, but breaking all that shit brings you back on top of the robot. Sly appears and provides you with a Doomerang, pledging his allegiance to Ty and mammalian kind, saying Boss Cass lied to him. I genuinely have no idea what lie he's referring to, but Ty throws the Doomerang and guides it in first person like the Death Star X-Wing assault to blow the robot up from the inside. If the Doomerang runs into everything, you have to retry, so it can feel a little anticlimactic, but exploding it defeats Boss Cass, earns the final talisman, and brings Ty's parents back from the dreaming. I immediately noticed Ty's dad wears a watch chain, and only 2 Tasmanian tigers came back. Where are the others? We don't know, but it's a happy ending where Ty saved the mammalian world, and credits roll. I really like these credits. You can tell how thankful they are, having a lot of specific art for Kickstarter backers, highlighting those who have passed or been born during the process, and they even thank Kev the pizza guy. As for the story, it's just fine for younger kids as a cartoon villain gets defeated by good guy story. I feel the Sly storyline is entirely forced, likely modeled off of Shadow the Hedgehog, and in-game it's never explained why he's working for Boss Cass to begin with, and what lies were told to change his allegiance. According to the wiki, however, apparently what changed his mind is that he learned Cass sent his parents to the Dreaming, but he was going to murder them anyway with his extinction machine. I don't know. Additionally, the lack of difficulty in fighting him makes him seem very lame. Beyond Sly, it's clear Ty the Tasmanian Tiger was scaled back during development. Developers have confirmed they cut stuff out, and it does feel that way. Every game has stuff left on the cutting room floor, but not all of them make it noticeable. The plot seemed to be missing a final build-up. Shaza showing up to give you a talisman feels very last minute, and a few mechanics that were never really used, like the Frostarang making temporary frozen platforms on water, the Bunyip power-up only available in 2 or 3 places, only one level outside the tutorial using bite chaining, and bite diving into the water only used once. Perhaps more obviously, getting the Flamerang unlocked 3 levels, and the same with the Frostarang, but when we get the Zapparang, we just fight the final boss. It's fairly well understood that Krome wanted 1 or 2 more worlds with 3 levels each. An air realm with the Zapparang, and an earth realm with the Kaboomerang or another earth-themed one, somewhat confirmed by cut levels in the files. One cut level was going to be where Frills would be scaring a village pretending to be a Min light, a regrettable loss. The additional content isn't added in the remake, understandably, but I'd love to see Ty properly fleshed out the way it was originally planned. I am no expert in the process of developing a game, but if they just had 3 talismans instead of 5 and the Zapparang was required for anything more than just opening the final door, it would feel less obvious that something is missing. Alright, in welcoming back our spoiler avoiders, I'll say Ty the Tasmanian Tiger story is best for younger kids and preteens, operating more as a Saturday morning cartoon plot with a few muddled elements, and some things obviously scaled back. One thing I found odd, if you don't mind indulging me, is that we're playing an extinct animal, trying to stop a non-extinct animal from causing its extinction. So I almost feel like if the real world somewhat confirms that our heroes eventually lose. Doesn't that make sense, right? Either way, it's unlikely the intended audience of this game would think so bleakly about the subject matter. It's a nice, fun-loving little story. I want to leave you on one line, maybe joke, that legitimately felt like a somewhat whimsical but profound statement.
Wedgwood was a fierce pirate who ruled the southern seas, but he left pirating to try something even more cutthroat.
Like what?
Teaching.
Damn. My mom's a teacher, and that felt both respectful and insightful, despite being about a pirate and a 3D platformer meant for young people. So, Ty the Tasmanian Tiger is a somewhat derivative but delightfully Australian 3D platformer with proficiently built mechanics, a scrambled, simplistic story, and an endearing presentation. We'll break down Aussie August as to what consistencies appeared across all 3 games in a moment, but let's talk the recommendation. Despite my love for Ty being steeped in Australian culture, my rating system is built as an attempt to be as unbiased as possible. So, in scoring in each of my categories and compiling into a grade, Ty the Tasmanian Tiger scores between Typing of the Dead Overkill and Forgive Me Father in my category recommended for genre enjoyers or the highly interested. Basically, if you like 3D platformers of this era, a Banjo-Kazooie fan, an Ape Escape enthusiast, a Crash Bandicoot simp, you'll find a lot to appreciate and enjoy with Ty, as will anyone particularly taken by the upbeat nature or Australian cultural elements. That said, there are better 3D platformers in my opinion, so more recommended to those where the mechanics wouldn't necessarily be the selling point. Okay, that brings us to the end of Aussie August. This has been so much fun. Let's see what corroborating elements were present in all 3 games. I'll get through the really obvious one. Bats, boomerangs, cows, crocodiles, didgeridoos, kangaroos, koalas, pigs, and spiders. I pretty much expected all of that. While quokkas made 0 appearances, there were 4 that appeared in all 3 games that were new to me. I'd never learned about them or never associated them with Australian culture. First, opals. They played a prominent role in Ty and Down Under Dan and can be found in Strya too. Next, falling off cliffs was a consistency, but here are my 2 favorites. Each game had significant progression tied to teleportation or portals. Strya with the Min lights, Ty with the Dreaming portals, and Down Under Dan with his Mad Mike machine. Does Australia have the technology for teleportation and is just keeping it from the rest of us? Tell us that, Tony Abbott. Just don't touch my onions. Lastly, and most significantly, a consistent element playing a significant role in each is the Australian dunny. They're places to get bandages or get attacked by spiders in Strya. It's a plot-important location in Down Under Dan where you can also get killed by a spider. And they're the save system in Ty the Tasmanian Tiger. So, if I'm taking what I learned from these 3 games on face value, Australians are surrounded with unique wildlife, have the ability to teleport, and still shit in outside toilets. Thank you all so much for watching. This month has been really fun. I appreciate your culture and country. I'd love the chance to visit, and to everyone else, I hope you've enjoyed this trip down under. Maybe I'll do it again next year, and if I do, please recommend any games that are as Australian as they can get. Thank you so much for watching. My name is Harvey Bodega. I'll see you in the next one. Thanks a lot.
My word, this must be a frosty ring. Ripper!
Ty, you don't even know what this is yet, dude.